Hey guys, what's up? This is Casey.
Coach Tom.
And this is Shot Science Overtime number 177.
Wow.
So
That always seems such a big number. It doesn't seem like we've been doing this for that long.
yeah, well, it goes up just one every single time that we do it.
I know.
We want to welcome you guys to the Shot Science Overtime, obviously number 177. This is our live show that we do most every Sunday, usually at 1 p.m., but today we're doing it at 2 p.m. We had the daylight savings time last night.
Yeah, that's true.
So we just want to welcome you guys to our show that's about an hour long. If this is not something that you're looking for, like you want a tutorial or something like that, go check that out in our library. That's totally cool. If this isn't for you, you can get out right now, and that's all good. But if you want to talk to us about basketball stuff, we are super happy to have you here. Looks like we got people showing up already. We got Martin's basketball video says, "What up?" The Red Black 1-1 says hi. Guillerme says hello. Martin's basketball from Germany. Awesome.
All right.
Zeno says, "Yo, greetings from Amsterdam."
All right. Hello
awesome.
in Amsterdam.
Guillerme's from Brazil. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So we love seeing that you guys are already here checking it out. And here's how this show usually goes. We have a topic that we talk about at the top of the show. It's about something we think is going to help you guys become better basketball players. Something that kind of cuts a little bit of the learning curve out of becoming a developed basketball player.
Yeah.
And while we're doing that, you guys are going to send us your basketball related questions. So anything on shooting, passing, dribbling, defense, how to talk to your coach, athleticism, any kind of training stuff. And we'll do our best to answer those as soon as we're done with our topic. We just want to have a little bit of time so that we can talk to you guys and wait for everybody to show up.
Yeah.
And so while you guys are here, make sure that you guys are sending us your questions, and then also go check out every one of our social media pages and follow us. That really helps. It helps us know that you guys are part of the team. So if you are into Facebook, go check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it is. Check out Shot Science and all that stuff. That's how you can talk to us during the week, right?
Absolutely.
And we do cool things there too.
Yeah.
And also, go check out shotscience.com. That's our website. We have a lot of cool stuff there. You can get shirts. You can get training gear. You can join the All Access membership. And if you guys want a free month of that, just use the promo code #1FreeMonth!, all capitals, in the checkout when you do that. And we'd love to see you guys check that out. But let's get into our show, all right? So our topic for today is, got to look at it again because this is just ridiculous. Dunks or threes, what's better?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question.
Well, it seems like that's one of those things that when you're a younger player, you really want to do one or the other, or maybe both, and you have an emphasis you might want to throw in on
Yeah,
there.
I think that's probably true. And, the fact that younger players probably maybe don't have the ability to dunk the ball and all that. Well, here's kind of my outlook on the one versus the other. One of the things that we want to be able to do is be effective scorers, and not everybody can leap out of the gym to be able to dunk the ball. In the number of high school games that I see most every year, and it probably is the hundreds, probably never see more than maybe 2 or 3 dunks in the whole season. Maybe a few more than that. Maybe
It depends on where you play too.
Well,
Like there's
it
some
does.
like pretty high-powered places where there's super athletes and stuff like that.
Yeah, where guys can really jump and all of that. You see more of it, but we don't see much of it. And the reason is that we don't have an awful lot of those players. We have bigger players, but they're not consumed with the idea that they need to dunk the basketball. And the thing that's really interesting about it is that is not, as a result, that is not a situation where that kind of scoring is going to help you necessarily win the game. I was just watching the Michigan game a little while ago, and what was happening is Wisconsin was pressing them full court, and they were giving up dunk after dunk after dunk. Probably in the last minute or so, they gave up 4 dunks because they were beating the press and throw it down court. But the upshot of it is that it's much more effective when your guys can score by getting jump shots, getting threes, getting to the basket and finish. Those things are all way more important when it comes to who's going to win the basketball game.
Yeah,
Okay?
I think it comes down to simple math here, is that a dunk is worth the same amount as a layup.
Yep.
And, sure, dunks are great and maybe help you get pumped up and all that, but there is...
And crowd pleasers.
Yeah.
People love to see the dunks, for sure.
But there is like a theme park height you have to have requirement on those.
Yeah.
Whereas for other shots, you don't necessarily have that.
Yeah.
And, it's great to be able to dunk, but one of the things that we see as a problem is that so many people become fixated on wanting to be able to dunk.
Yeah.
That is their only goal.
And a lot of them are people who are not very big. How can I learn to jump when I'm 5 foot or dunk when I'm 5'7"? Well, the chances of that happening are not really good, particularly if you're in your mid to late teens. It ain't going to happen.
But it comes down to kind of our philosophy on basketball is that you have to be an all-around, well-rounded player. If dunking is one of those things that just happens to be part of your game, that's great. But if that's the only thing you can do, or that's the only thing, even worse, if that's the only thing that you train for and want to do and still can't do or do effectively, then what is the point?
Yeah.
And you see all these guys that are in the NBA, and there's a lot of them that are very one-dimensional type players, but they still get by. Like DeAndre Jordan, he can't shoot outside of 3 feet, more effectively than probably his grandmother or something,
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that he is able to stay alive in the NBA is because he is so effective in that little tiny space and on the defensive end, and he's also 7 feet tall and has a superhuman wingspan and athleticism. Yeah. But could you imagine a guy like that could actually shoot the ball too? It doesn't make sense to us when people put such a huge emphasis on dunking the ball. And again, back to the math. What is more important? 3 points or 2 points?
Yeah. If I were a coach, I would want my kids, unless I had somebody who, just excelled at dunking and he was huge and nobody could stop him. That's one thing, but that doesn't happen too often. But I really want my kids to be able to shoot the basketball and be able to shoot it from beyond the 3 line, be able to shoot mid-range, be able to get to the basket and finish there as well.
Yeah, I think that just shooting as a skill is way more important than dunking.
Yep.
Dunking takes place in an area within about 4 feet of the basket.
Yeah.
If you can't make the shots outside of that 4 feet, you're in trouble. I mean, that's the mid-range, that's 3-pointers, that's free throws. Mm-hmm. If you can't make those shots, then you are in deep trouble.
Yeah.
And, if you can make a layup, you've essentially made a dunk as well. I mean, they're the same amount of points.
They're worth the same number, yeah.
And so, here's the take home. We love dunks. We think it's amazing when we see those crazy athletic executions of dunks and things like that. We don't have anything against it. One of the things that we have a problem with is kids fixating so much on that's all they want to do.
Yeah.
And if you want to level up in basketball in your career, you need to work on everything.
Yeah, very true. One of the things that is really kind of confusing a little bit is that why players want to be a one-trick pony. They can do one thing. They can dunk it. They can do one thing. All they can do is shoot threes. Okay, maybe all they can do is play defense. Well, if I had my druthers, I'd love to have that guy who can shoot threes. Okay, because that scoreboard jumps 3 slots at a time, and that's really effective. With a dunk, it goes up 2 at a time, just like lay-ins.
If Michael Jordan could only dunk, he wouldn't be Michael Jordan. If Kobe Bryant could only dunk, he wouldn't be Kobe Bryant. Yeah. I mean, it's really imperative that you guys see the importance of an all-around game.
Absolutely.
And dunks are great. And if you can do it, or even if you have to work towards it, that's great too. But don't make that the limiting factor in your game.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And we've seen that, and we get questions from people all the time, and that's like their only goal in life is to be able to dunk the basketball. And the other thing is that's fine.
That's not bad at all.
As long as if that's your goal in basketball, I guess that's fine. But if you want to be a basketball player, you should probably have a different goal.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that's probably good, right? I mean,
good.
That makes sense. If you guys want to be a great basketball player, develop your all-around game. Be able to hit the shots from different spots, and you're going to be in much better shape.
Yep. Now, one of the things he's saying that I think is really important is the fact that you want to have a lot of tools in your bag. Now, a lot of tools. What does that mean? Offensively, we're talking about your ability to break down a defender, your ability to get to the basket, your ability to shoot from the 3-point line. Those are all tools in your basket. One of the things that really kind of is a problem for a lot of players is this. Not very many people, particularly in the high school level, shoot well off the dribble. And that's something I think has got to be important in everybody's game, is to be able to attack hard, pull up, and shoot it. And yet that's not something people work on very much. and I think they should.
I mean, there's some people in the chat over here, like Zeno, who's saying, yeah, but if you make 90% of your dunks and 40% of your threes, which is good, dunks will get you more points. Sure, if you can get to the basket and get that shot.
Well,
that's getting to the basket is not as easy as being able to create shots from the mid-range and from further back.
Well, and as a coach, if I know we're facing somebody who is just going to be trying to dunk lights out, we're really going to be physical with him, and we're really going to try and keep him away from the basket, maybe double team him even. And so it's not going to be as easy as that.
Or if he can't shoot, you play off, let him do whatever he wants out there.
Yeah.
And you can get things taken away from you.
Yeah.
And dunks, sure, if you can dunk the ball, it's going to be a high percentage shot.
Right.
If it's not, I mean, 90% on dunks is not even good, I would say.
Right.
If you're dunking the ball, it better be more than that.
But keep in mind the fact that the opponent coaches are going to figure out what they're going to have to do to stop you. And they may not be totally successful, but oftentimes they come up with schemes for defense and whatnot where they keep you from getting to the basket for those dunks.
Yeah, and so all we're saying is be able to do everything.
Yeah.
Create space,
Exactly.
get good shots. Dunks are good shots if they are open and you're able to do it.
Yeah.
And here's another thing from Martin's basketball videos who says, and dunks bring momentum. I can't really decide. Yeah, sure. Dunks are very spectacular. They can bring momentum, but they can also really, just like any shot that you miss, if you miss it or you get denied or whatever, that can really bring it down too.
Yeah.
And if you hit a very timely 3-pointer that sends you ahead, I mean, it's all about kind of the scenario too.
Yeah, it is.
It's we're not saying that one is necessarily better than the other if it's a scoring opportunity, but in the scheme of things, if you're trying to develop your game, you should not be focused just on dunking the ball or shooting. But shooting really is a very more comprehensive tool than dunking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
fair to say, if I've got a player that can dunk, we're going to give him as many opportunities as we can. Okay. But we're also going to take and work with those guys who can do other things as well. And we'll work with him to try and improve his skills, maybe as a shooter, rebounder, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So, take home from this is that we love dunks. We don't hate them. We are friends with some of the greatest dunkers on the planet, and we love it. But don't put all your eggs in one basket, is what we're saying. The cliche of eggs in one basket. Okay, so that's going to do it for our topic. We want to jump into talking to you guys and answering some of your questions. So if you have more questions or comments about what we just talked about, please just leave them in the chat.
Yep.
Make sure you guys are sending us your questions and telling your friends and family to check us out right now. And let's just start talking to some people. Oh, wait, we forgot our question. I guess we have to answer. Hold on.
Okay.
We got to intro it like we do
right.
every time.
All right.
Jeez, jumping the gun. Okay. So every week we have a question for you guys, and I'm sure that the regulars know what it is.
Exactly.
But our question every week is this:
where are you from in the world?
Yeah, we are in California, near San Francisco, but we want to know where you guys are from. Are you from Venezuela? Are you from Argentina? Are you from Sudan? Are you from Latvia? You say Latvia every time.
I know.
Pandering.
Love Latvia.
And like our buddy Denvi Star, who I know is from Moscow. We want to know where you guys are from. So let us know in the chat. And if you guys are in a spot that is not necessarily a basketball, basketball is not like a big sport there. Spread the word so we can try to help grow basketball across the world. That would be awesome. Okay, so let's get into some of these. Oh, we got Trevo, who says hi from Florida. Aaron's from Amsterdam. I think that you're here all the time. So awesome. Keep sending us in, you guys. These are from a little while back, but that's cool. Okay, so Godmello Anthony has a couple of questions, but they ask, can I send you guys a video of me shooting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Best way to do that is send it to us on Twitter or probably Twitter is the best way. Just tag us on that one.
We'll look at it and get back to you with some kind of an analysis, okay?
Yeah, a short one.
A short one.
Godmel Anthony asks, how are the feet supposed to be set when shooting?
Well,
feet, okay, we did this last week.
Yeah.
And we would say, go check out our video on YouTube on it. If you want to get the super details, go check out our all-access membership area at shotscience.com.
Yeah.
that is something that takes a little while to explain, and we have graphics and demos on all that stuff. So I would say go check that out. And then you ask, is the ball supposed to be released over the head?
Well, it depends on where your set point is. Oftentimes, younger girls and younger guys will shoot with the ball here at their shoulder, and maybe a little bit higher sometimes. But there's no rule that says you have to shoot from over your head at all. We like to have players shoot with a higher set point as they get older and stronger, both men and women. But the thing that's really important is that that kind of keeps the blocking of your shot being such a problem. If you have it down here, then people can get the ball a little sooner. If it's up here, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them to get to you and contest that.
Yeah, you got to keep the ball up and in front of your shooting eye, basically.
Yeah.
And if you are allowing it to get down too low or back behind your head, those are going to have their inherent problems too. And we talk about that in our videos all the time, and you can see those if you want.
One of the things that happens when we bring the ball behind our top and behind our head like this is the shot is almost always flat. And a flat shot makes that hole, that basket, really small. And you can find that out by going to our videos and checking out the relativity between arc and the basket itself. Okay, and so that's real important to consider.
Yeah. So you don't want the ball to be released over your head either, because that's kind of not going to give you the best mechanics. Still, it's out in front, raising and elevating so that your elbow is above your shooting eye. Okay.
I see somebody there from SoCal, California.
Yeah, I was going to say, Twisted Gremlins here is apparently in the same town that we are.
All right, that's cool.
So who is Twisted? Do we know you? Let us know. Diego is from Tampa, Florida. British Dunker BD is from London.
Right.
Guillermo said Brazil, you know already. Robals from Toronto. Luis Barros is Portuguese, coaching in the UK. Cool.
Right.
The Gaming King 75 is from Maine. Jonah 2770 is from Canada. The Royal Noob, Central New Jersey, born in Egypt. Dr. Owl, Virginia. Martin's Basketball from Germany. Cool. Dan Dabrowski, our buddy, is from Pennsylvania. And we do know that already. Awesome. So, guys, keep sending those in, and we'll keep shouting people out. Awesome. Okay, let's go back to these questions here. Let's see. Where was I? Okay, this one is from Dr. Owl, who says, how do you get consistent good form? Basically, how do you stay consistent?
Well, yeah, the reason or the way you do that is spend time in what we call the form shooting drill, and that should explain it right there. You can go to our YouTube channel and you can find a video that shows you exactly what that one's all about. Because one of the things that you want to do in most every skill, particularly in shooting though, is develop an effective, efficient execution for that movement. In this case, it's shooting. And so we want to take and spend time so that that is always effective and efficient. And, there'll be certain things like I had a young student this morning, and this was where her shot came. Her elbow here was in a V. Well, anytime you have a V, then you've got the ball back over the top of your head, and the ball is almost always going to be flat. If you take and get the ball in an L configuration right here, this is probably a little easier to see, then what happens is the ball is out in front of your face, and the ball is probably going to have a better arc if you elevate and finish with the elbows above your eyes.
Yeah, you want to do some purposeful, diligent form shooting work where you are analyzing what you're doing. You're not just going through the motions.
Yep.
You're not trying to emulate somebody else. You're taking the foundational elements and you're working through those and mastering them, and then ramping up the speed towards game speed.
And everything that we do in basketball, everything that we do in soccer or baseball or any other sport is really centered around the idea of developing muscle memory for certain movements. You take a look at just the incredible soccer players and the things that they can do with their feet. They didn't just fall into that. That comes from hours and hours and weeks and months probably of working on these very sophisticated moves with their feet. Same thing is happening when we're working in basketball. Our footwork in basketball is really important, and it's not going to be there unless we spend time developing the muscle memory for that on the stroke mechanics themselves. It's the same thing. Now, one of the things that we have to do is this. If we don't have a really efficient stroke, one of the things we have to do is we have to work on that and get it so that it is efficient and it is effective when you release the basketball. If you don't, you're wasting your time developing muscle memory. I have this one student I was talking about a while ago. She came and she had spent all week working on her shot, but she was working on the wrong things. And so she came in today and was having a real struggle, and it was a mental struggle for her as well. She was getting close to tears because it just wasn't happening. So we take time out, we go back, and we talk about this very element. In fact, that learning good muscle memory is how you start to get this going, and then you can smile all the way. Okay?
Yeah, and when you're asking about how to be consistent, that just comes from repeating it consistently every day. And if you are doing this kind of touch-up work every day, you will be consistent basically whenever you are trying to call on it, when you have games and things like that.
Right, and it's a thing that you don't have to think about. Once you establish the muscle memory for it, you don't really have to think about it because your brain and your body knows how to do that.
And your shooting form should be the same no matter where you are on the floor every time you shoot it. If you have things where you're altering it from different spots, that is not good. You want to have the same mechanics every single time.
Yeah. An Australian visitor there, Casey?
The Redback 11, hi from Australia. I think I hit him earlier.
You hit him earlier, yeah.
Aaron says, hello, coaches. I can't listen this week because of a huge amount of homework. I'll be sure to listen afterwards. That's cool.
All right.
Homework is very important.
I bet he was the same one who was working on his homework last week, Casey.
Maybe. Shamir Smith asked how to get better handles. Practice, and then maybe add some more practice.
Yeah. The thing that I find curious about this is that most of the young students that we get do not have very good weak hands. And I know the reason. They don't spend any time working on it because it's not fun. They can't make the ball do what they want to do. And an analogy that we use is this. When we're working on our shooting, there is a reward when the ball goes through the basket. That always makes us feel, all right. But when we're taking and working on our ball skills, we don't have that same thing unless maybe we're able to execute that against another player and go by them. Okay, so one of the things that we need to do is spend time. How much time? Well, I would recommend that if you were taking and working on your ball skills with your weak hand, you spend 10 or 15 minutes, I'd say several times a week. You'd be surprised how quickly your left hand or offhand comes useful to you.
And when we give you like times of window of how much to practice and stuff like that, that is like bare minimum stuff. Yeah. People want to be the next great player, and then they want to hear a number to tell them, or that somebody tells them to get there. Typically, when somebody says you need to take 300 shots a day to become a great player, that's if you want to do that, that's a good number, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to make you a great shooter. No. There's guys that take 1,000 shots a day. Yeah. And so you need to, when you hear a number, you need to analyze it for yourself and know what is good for yourself, because there's also a difference between quality in what you're doing too.
Exactly right.
And if you take 200 quality shots, that is so much better than 700 garbage shots.
Yeah, exactly.
So you need to really kind of evaluate the number that you're shooting for. Also, is it benefiting you as you do it? Are you doing quality over quantity? I mean, all those things count.
Yeah.
And when we talk about practice, we're not talking about casual practice or just the shoot around horse shots, half court hook shots. Stuff like that is not going to help you get better. Yeah. And if you spend 4 hours doing that stuff, as opposed to 30 minutes of just very diligent, purposeful practice, we would say take that 30 minutes over that 4 hours every single time.
Yeah, I see.
So that's stuff to think about.
Okay.
Okay, let's get in here. Jonah 2770 says, where should the set point be? And then Guillerme says, I lowered my set point so my shooting arm can be at 90-degree angle, which is better. So the questions are about set point. Where should the set point be?
Well, I think probably a definition of what set point is might be in order.
Okay.
The set point is that point where you are ready to release the basketball, whether it's down here at a lower set point that is maybe about chin high or it's a few inches higher, or the set point where you are above your head with the basketball. That's what the set point is. And what was the question there? I kind of forgot that.
It was just like, where was the set point, and looks like Guilherme lowered his set point so it could be at 90 degrees.
Yeah. Okay. And if that works for you, that's fine. The thing that's really important, I think, about set point is, does it fit you? Does it fit your body type? Oftentimes we'll have players who are kind of short and aren't able to get a higher set point and have the power to get at the ball to the basket. And so we'll recommend that they go ahead and use a lower set point until which time as they develop a little bit more strength or age a little bit, because those factors help you to be able to execute that longer shot. And so
there's really like a sweet spot.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
There's going to be people that shoot it really well at that 90 degree. There's going to be people that shoot it better at a little bit elevated or almost fully extended. It really depends on your body, your strength, those type of things. Obviously, having it a little bit higher is going to help you in getting the ball off before anybody can test your shot.
Exactly.
And it also it shortens the distance and the moving parts and things like that, which is also great. But you don't want to sacrifice that for quality of the mechanics either.
Yep.
So if you're really pitching the ball or you're losing power or something like that, that is probably not a good set point for you. Bring it down a little bit, and again, you can work up to having a more extended set point as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I often come across is that we talk to younger students about their set point and how we want it to be in front of their eye. We don't really mean in front of your eyes where you can't see, because I have students who come and they've got the ball and they can't see the basket and they're yanking it up there. So really what it does is the top of the ball maybe is at just below eye level so you can look over it, or it's up here just above your forehead, and that's probably the best location for a lower set point and a higher set point.
Yeah, and I know when I was growing up, there was people like Bernard King who would literally have the ball fully extended, and it was almost all just the final movement was just wrist and stuff like that, and that worked for him. But then there's people like Ray Allen who has a very 90-degree look to his set point. So it really depends on the person. And, we just want to make sure that you're not satisfied with having the ball down low or behind your head or any of that stuff. There's really kind of a good, spectrum of stuff from about 90, a little bit higher, just kind of in this range, right? Somewhere in there?
Yep, that's good.
Okay. This one is from Zeno, who says, yesterday we had a game and we got behind by a lot early on, turnovers and a lot of missed shots, and never got back into the game. Any advice on what to do when that happens other than taking a timeout?
Well, you probably do need to take timeouts. I don't know if you're one of the players or one of the coaches or whatnot, but one of the things is that you don't want to let the game get away from you too far before you do call a timeout, because maybe the timeout gives your team a chance to kind of rest. You have a chance to kind of coach them on something that they are doing or not doing. And so we kind of control the game a little bit better when we use our timeouts in that regard. And, when you are involved in a basketball game where you have players, all the players are participating in shooting the basketball, oftentimes you don't really have too much control unless they're making baskets. And maybe it turns over and the other team is making baskets on the other end. So the important thing for you to do is try to control the pace of the game. And the control of pace of the game is take a timeout.
And if something's not working, maybe switch that up. A different look on defense, a different offensive approach. Right. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do. If you're just doing the same thing and getting hammered every time, that's probably not a good approach either.
Yeah, and one of the things that really helps an awful lot, I think, with teams that are younger and maybe not quite as well developed, is to have them play at a slower pace. Where they are taking time. They're not jacking the shots up right away. Most of the United States, I think, plays with a
shot clock?
A shot clock. I know not all of them do, but one of the things that I think is important there is you can wind that clock down until it's, I don't know, sometimes it's 30, sometimes 35 seconds, but you can wind that thing down and you're not taking any shots until you get down maybe 10 or 15 seconds. And that slows the game down, and it really annoys teams that like those up-tempo games because they can't run Okay, and so you take your time, look for a good shot. One of the things that is so important too in basketball is knowing what a good shot is.
Yeah.
And not forcing shots where you're being closely contested or where you can't get the shot off cleanly. And so by managing the game, just by keeping control of it, moving the basketball from one player to another, and one of the things that I kind of like is I like the idea of using false motion sometimes. False motion is movement that you're using to make the defensive move, but you're not really making an attempt to score off of those. You're using time with those false motions. And then you get to a certain point where you want your team to go, then they get into what it is that you really want them to run besides the false motion.
Yep. And, sometimes you'll have games that just go that way.
Yeah, sometimes you just can't control them. You take the time out and put them back in, and it just goes haywire again. Take them out. It's just sometimes your players may not be sophisticated enough either.
Okay, Jehoshaphat F. Castillo says, do they read the YouTube? Yeah.
You bet, every day.
Christian Thompson says, hey guys, I'm here. What's up, Christian?
All right, Christian.
Jehoshaphat also says, thanks, Coach. That's some awesome stuff. Thanks. Right. Don't know what you're talking about, but hopefully it was good. Our Dan has got our back. He says, yeah, you're talking about these comments. Yes, they do. Okay, the Gaming King 75 says, what are some good shooting drills?
Oh, gosh,
form shooting drill.
Form shooting drill is an absolute must. And the form shooting drill, as you might guess, just from the title of it, is all about working on your stroke mechanics, your form. And when you work on that and you work on it diligently using our form shooting drill, you'd be surprised in a matter of a week, your mechanics really begin to change a whole bunch. Now, when you start to formulate your shot, you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. One of the things that happens, I'm sure, is, well, I really like what Ray Allen does, so I'm going to go out and shoot like Ray Allen. And you go out and you start shooting, trying to be like Ray Allen, and nothing works for you. What you really need to do, and Casey and I talk about this a lot, is you need to formulate a shot for
your own ergonomics.
Well, yeah, for you personally, because ergonomically, I think that's a great term. Not everybody's the same. And so you may develop a stroke that's a little different, works well for you. And how long does that take? Well, if you are figuring out what the mechanics are, and you can go to our videos and see what we teach, we think they're really effective. And we're supported by an awful lot of people in this country who believe in the same thing. Not that we invented it, but we accept certain things from.
Well, we have our own methodology and approach.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that is kind of we see it all the time is people want to emulate some great shooter or whatever. That is really not a good approach. And some of the reasoning is the ergonomics. I mean, you can imagine. I'm 6'2". If I want to shoot like Dirk Nowitzki, who's 7 feet tall, that my body just doesn't compute to his. And so for me to try to shoot like him or play like him necessarily is probably not the best approach. Yeah. But I could work towards being as effective as him if I'm putting together my fundamentals from the ground up, which is basically what he was doing. And so you should never look at somebody like, oh, there's Steph Curry, there's Ray Allen. I want to shoot exactly like that person. Yeah. You want the results to be the same, but you don't want to have to try to emulate them in the way that they do things because you are not them.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, let's go right
here. Hold on. Our buddy Jehoshaphat says that he's from the Philippines and a country that treats basketball like a religion, and we kind of you treat basketball like a religion. We love the Philippines. The Philippines
absolutely.
is awesome,
and
we appreciate having you guys here all the time. Tons of people on Facebook. But spread the word there in the Philippines that we want people to join Team Shot Science. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Christian Thompson says 3-point shots take skill and dunks are pure athleticism, which brings me to this point. Would coaches rather put a 3-point shooter on or a dunker? Okay, I would not agree completely with that dunks are just pure athleticism. Sure, that is a big part of it, but a lot of times it takes the ability to create space and get to the basket and execute a move. We were watching a game last night, and they were young kids, but there was a few of them that would have, and I said this to you, they had a $1,000 move and a 10-cent finish,
right.
And so you can have the move and not make the basket, and if you can't make the move but make the basket, you'll never get to make the basket.
Yeah,
So
right.
it really comes down to being able to do everything, like we keep saying. Skill is involved in all of these things. Obviously, athleticism will help you when you get to the point of executing something like a dunk. But we would rather have somebody that is able to do everything.
Yep.
Make the 2s and the 3s.
Yep.
Okay, Dr. Owl, is that the one you were
That's the
asking about?
one.
Is a thumb flick a no-no?
Yes. Now, if you're saying what I think you're saying is that when you go to shoot the basketball, the thumb of your offhand flicks the ball like this at the finish. Get over here where it flicks the ball at the finish. It will take and drive the ball to the right. It will drive it to the left, and very seldom at the basket. Had a student this morning. It was a new student, and it was a girl about 6'1", and she had a reasonable stroke in most cases, but every time she shot, that thumb would swipe the ball, and the ball's all over the place. And so what I told her is, okay, let's start right here, and the ball gets to this elevation. I want you to release and just go ahead and finish. First one was right in the middle of the basket. Second, right in the middle of the basket. And one of the things that I pointed out to her is this, is that with one hand, you can actually shoot the ball where you want it to go. When you add the other hand and it is there at the finish, it's going to take and push the ball one way or the other and isn't going to be very accurate very often. So, yeah, it is a no-no in our opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to, like we say every time, shooting efficiency is really the key.
Yeah.
Because efficiency is going to help you with being able to repeat it every single time, so it's the same.
Yep.
Repeatability will give you the accuracy.
Yep.
So you need to be able to have an efficient shot. Adding in that thumb flick thing, that is another input of information. It's another thing that can go wrong. It's another thing you have to factor in when you're shooting. You don't need it. And you know, we've heard a few people that have added that into like their shooting methodology, and it doesn't make any sense.
Right. And well, one of the things that happens is that pretty soon the thumb gets even more dominant, and now you're kind of shooting the ball with both hands, but we're shooting it here and here, and so we want one that's going to go straight. That one arm can make that thing pretty straight.
Yeah, it comes down to efficiency.
Yeah.
It's not efficient. It's an extra thing that you're adding in, an extra thing that can go wrong, a variable. You know, it's like if you throw a football, are you going to have like the other hand involved, or a baseball? I mean, you're delivering the ball with one hand essentially when you're shooting a basketball.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see here. This is from Kevin Somera, who says, "How do I get more playing time?"
Oh, we get that question quite often. Well, there are a number of things you really kind of have to factor into this. You need to work on your game, number one, and work on your game to the point where you can be an effective player. You don't turn the ball over. You shoot the ball okay. You defend really good. All of those things kind of factor into who's going to be on the floor. And one of the things I would say is that the better you are at all of those things, the more likely it is when that coach turns, he's going to be looking for you. Something else that you may find a little strange is I often tell certain players, not all of them, is that when we're playing a game, you sit right next to the coach. Well, I might be the coach, but maybe there's another coach there. You sit right next to the coach. So every time he turns to look, there is your face, okay? And maybe they get you more time based on that. But just being a better player is really important. How you do that? Well, you start developing all those skills that some of those people that are playing in front of you maybe already have. Maybe you have really no left hand at all, okay? And when you put the ball in the left hand, you dribble it once and you pick it up. Well, that right there is the death knell for you, because you can't go anyplace unless you've got ball skills. So you want to be able to work on the ball skills so you can take the ball left-handed and go, or you can take and dribble between your legs and go the other way. You pull up and shoot the ball effectively. Now, you may say, well, I can't do all those things. Well, those players maybe that are playing in front of you couldn't do them at one point either, but they're able to do it now, and it wasn't just magic that happened. They work on it.
Yeah, I mean, that just comes down to being an all-around versatile player. Like we tell everybody, don't just be satisfied with being a one-hit wonder or a one-trick pony or any of that stuff. Yeah. You have to develop your entire game. That is just the skill part of it. Yeah. People need to know that you are reliable when you step out on the court, and you're going to produce and be a solid member of the team. Right. Above that, if you're trying to get more playing time, there's things that we talk about in the video, how to make the team, where it's essentially kind of these more mental approaches to maybe endearing yourself more to the coach. So things like showing leadership skills, hustle, effort, initiative. There's a whole list of things in that video that really are the kind of things that transcend the skills. So you have to have the skills, but you have to have these other things if you want to have more going on that the coach is noticing. They want to do things for you.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that you are not owed anything by the coach or the team or anything. You have to kind of make your case. And those are things that will help you make your case.
Yeah. One of the things that is an absolute turnoff to coaches is your attitude. Watching so many basketball games, I see tons of players, boys and girls, and one of the things that will be an absolute turnoff to your coach regarding you is that when you come off the floor and you have this long face and you're kind of pissed off and whatnot, and you stomp down to the end of the bench and sit down, and you just sit down there at the very end of the bench and you become a distraction. Maybe you're yelling at the other players. Maybe you're sitting there with a long face because you're not getting in the game. Those are things that coaches pick up on. And coaches are very sensitive to body language, very sensitive. You don't really have to say anything to them. They can tell how your body is when you're walking, when you're playing, when you're sitting on the bench. And that can do you a lot of harm there too.
Yeah, coaches have eyeballs.
Yeah,
and they don't turn off as soon as you sit on the bench.
Exactly.
And if you want your coach to want to do you some favors, you don't want to act like a jerk every time that that something goes wrong.
Yeah.
Because I know that if I see somebody that's acting like they're entitled or they're acting just kind of childish, I'm not going to do them any favors and put them in the game.
Yeah.
But if I see them, they do something that's they messed up, they understand that they did it. Maybe it gets you can be frustrated a little bit, but you don't run off and just act like a jerk. You can go like, dang. But then you're snapped out of it and you're ready to go. That person's going to get back into the game.
Yeah.
The other guy he's gonna suit up, and that's going to be the last time he goes out on the floor.
Well, that's really true because it seems like every year we will have somebody who is just playing his heart out, but still makes a few mistakes. One of the things that we'll take him out, we'll talk to him for a minute, and right back in there again. Now, not everybody's like that. But the fact is, I want them to know that is not a situation where you're going to be sentenced to the end of the bench for the rest of the year. That's a mistake you made. We explained the mistake. Let's go.
Okay, our buddy Kevin Kola from Ireland's here. What's up, Kevin? You're here all
Kevin.
the time. Thank you. Hopefully you're spreading the word in Ireland.
All right.
Okay, you guys, we have so many questions here. If you want to get yours through, you can try to use this super chat option that we have not used yet. So if you want to try to get your question in for sure, check that out, and we will hit up people that use that. Okay, this one is from the Miniman 3000, who says, if you had 5-star players on your team, would you start all 5, or would you put some on the bench?
Well, that's an interesting question.
It's impossible to know because we don't know who the players are, the scenario, or any of that.
Yeah, we don't know about their attitudes. One of the things that oftentimes happens when you have a star or a couple of stars is they feel that they've got some special entitlement to the ball, to shooting, not playing defense because they're such great shooters, okay? And so oftentimes what you want to do is you have to evaluate those players who you have on there. Maybe you got, of the 5 stars, maybe you got 2 of them that are just really duffs on defense, okay? They would play less, even though maybe they can shoot really well, maybe they got good ball skills, but they scare you because they're loafers. They don't play on the defense side of the ball. And so it really kind of comes up to the coach's evaluation of those players and how do they play together. That is the most important thing when you're playing with 5 people is how do they play together? Do they support each other? Do they share the basketball? Do they screen for each other? There's a whole ton of things that coaches have going through their mind when they're looking at the scenario that you're talking about there.
Or matchups, offensive approaches, defensive approaches. There's so many things that factor into it. Yeah. Saying something as broadly as that, it's hard for us to know. I mean, it just really depends, and it could change from game to game, too.
Yeah, it really can. And you don't always have control of all of the elements of the game. I was watching the Michigan-Wisconsin game just a little while ago, and Michigan was really controlling the game, and Wisconsin was not playing very effectively. And they have 5 or 4 of their starters are seniors that have played for 2 and 3 years. And so the commentators were talking about how they have all of this experience, but they were behind. And the reason they were behind because they weren't playing very hard on defense, which was a surprise because they're really pretty much a defensive-oriented team. And so coaches have to make a lot of evaluations of their players even during the game. That guy's not working very hard. Get him out of there. Get somebody in who can play or who will play hard. And so those are some of the things that go through coaches' minds regarding their 5 star players.
Okay, Sam Wang is saying, any layup drills I can do without a hoop. You can work on the footwork. That's about what I could see you doing. One of the other things you could do is do some groundwork and try to find a hoop.
That's what I would do. Is I would just snoop around and see if you can find a basket. Don't know where you live, but
well, here's the thing. There's a ton of ways to do it. Find, we don't know where you live, so I mean, you could find like a YMCA, a local YMCA, a playground, a friend's house, a school. You could check on Craigslist and maybe find a cheapo hoop. Parks. You could talk to your coach and maybe work on getting like an open gym or a practice session or whatever. You just need to make it happen. We get that question so much where people are asking, I don't have a hoop. What can I do? Well,
find one.
Yeah, most of the people that are playing in the NBA, a lot of them didn't have their own personal basketball hoop. I can guarantee you, they went out and they found a place to make it happen.
Yep.
And there's a lot of ways to do that.
Yep.
But yeah, footwork would be the only thing you could really do without a hoop. Let's see. This one is from the Gaming 75. He says, Gaming King 75. He says, do you guys have any power forward workouts in the gym, not on the court?
Okay. We're going to back up for just a second because this is a point that Casey and I make every week. Don't put yourself into a category that may not fit for you as you go along your path in basketball. And what we mean there is we don't think that there are necessarily just post players and power forwards and point guards. We want basketball players, guys who can go out and they can play facing the basket or with their backs to the basket. And drills for a power forward are no different than a guy who plays at the 2 and 3 spot where they're attacking the basket, shooting the ball. All of it is the same. And so being just a power forward only puts you in a position on the floor where you're going to be working, but it doesn't change the things that you should be doing and learning to get yourself better.
Yeah. So you don't want to pigeonhole yourself. Be an all-around versatile player. When it comes to like training outside of basketball and things like that, we are not huge supporters of spending as much time on that as you do on your individual skill development.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people think that if they're going in the gym and they're spending, an hour and a half or an hour a day in the gym, that's going to make a huge difference as they level up through basketball. When in reality, if you're spending that time developing your skills in basketball, that's going to be better served than working in the gym. It's just, you don't get as much of a payoff as you do if you are to work on your skills.
Well,
and so we think that if you're going to do any work on developing strength and athleticism, things like that, it should be things that are functional towards your basketball game. So, push-ups, pull-ups, sprints, working on footwork, foot speed, using the ladder, a lot of stuff like that. And if you go look at our vertical jump stuff, we put a lot of things into that training that we think are important in just general basketball athletic development.
Well, another thought for you to keep in mind is you may be playing on a team now where they have you at the power forward position, and maybe next year you play in a different team and they've got 2 other guys who are better than you there. And if you had spent some time developing some of these other skills, maybe you could play a 1, 2, or 3. And so don't categorize yourself or limit yourself as to what you can do by being set on the fact that I'm going to be a power forward.
The classic basketball categorizations of positions like point guards and small forwards and centers, that is almost on the way out.
Well, it is and has been for a long time.
It's just like if you are just a classic point guard or a classic center, you will be left behind by the game today.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to do everything, and you will actually be in better shape than if you are focused on just one position. And people don't seem to, a lot of people don't seem to get that still. It's that if you're focused on just being a point guard and doing the classic point guard, ball distributor, bring the ball up kind of approach to that stuff, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah. And so you don't want to limit yourself.
Okay. Jonah is asking, when do you take your offhand off the ball to release it? And then Vander Ducken is saying you release it as soon as your wrist starts flicking.
No.
Okay. Go for it.
You want this one?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Your offhand, your assist hand, as you are going up into your shot, we're in the set point here. As you start to elevate this shooting arm, this hand can start to just fall away. It doesn't need to follow the ball up. Some people, it'll go up a little bit further, but it should really just fall away as your arm is elevating, right?
Yeah.
And it should not have any influence as you're starting your release. I mean, it should be out of your hands by that point. So the ball, your assist hand should come off the ball as you are extending the arm. You can see that in all of our videos and demonstrations and in the all access stuff. So I would say if you want a visualization of that, go check those out. And then one of the problems I have here with Vander's comment, and this is totally okay. This, people use this terminology, and it's just something that we have a little bit of an issue with, and that's flicking the wrist.
Yeah.
And we do not like that word at all. We don't like flicking or snapping or any of that, because one of the things that you need to work on with your shooting is having the relaxed flop finish, so that you are just, it's not something where you're snapping. This is what snapping looks like, or flicking. And if you guys see that, there's a lot of tension. I can feel it in my arm because I'm actively trying to turn my wrist as fast as I can. And what happens is you put that energy into the ball. And so the ball will be spinning, way faster than it needs to be. When it hits the backboard or the rim or whatever, it will expend that energy, and that energy is released in how the ball reacts. And so it will bounce off or reflect or deflect as hard as the energy that is put into it. Right. So we don't want that. We want a nice, gentle flop release so that the ball is just gently has a little bit of backspin. When it hits the rim, it dies and it stays right there.
Yeah, well, coupled with a nice arc, that's really important.
Yeah.
But here's one of the things that's really important to understand is that when we are shooting the ball, we don't want to hold back with our energy. All we want to do is just have this be a really relaxed fall over, and the ball spins much slower. Now, there's a study that, I can't cite it verbatim this moment, but I remember it was done back in the mid-'70s, and they were talking about rotation on the ball. And now their feeling was exactly what we're talking about, that if you're shooting a free throw, the ball should make about 1.5 to 2 complete rotations. That's pretty slow. And the reason for that is that we don't impart a lot of energy to the ball as it's spinning, because the faster it spins, as Casey was talking about, when it runs into something solid, it wants to expend that energy, and so you get the long rebounds. If you get that nice soft follow through, the ball will tend to stay around the basket, which could be in the basket for you.
Yeah, and that's what classically is called shooter's touch.
Yep.
Okay, lightning round, because we need to get to more of these questions. Okay, Aaliyah Ballot says, does shooting 100 free throws a day help with muscle memory to shoot anywhere?
If you're shooting it with the proper mechanics and all that, absolutely. It's all about repetition and establishing a good muscle memory.
But you can't just get away with shooting 100 free throws and hoping that it helps you with your shooting everywhere on the court without doing a little extra work.
Well, yeah, I mean, shooting a free throw, you're standing still. And
it's
oftentimes, and oftentimes that when you're playing at other positions and you're moving around the floor, it's catch and shoot, it's catch and dribble and shoot, and so it's a different situation. And you will find that's one of the shortcomings in basketball for me today, these days, is the fact that most players are pretty good at catch and shoot and not very good at dribble and shoot.
Yep. Okay, Christian Thompson says, how to get over injuries, coach. You got to talk to your doctor, make sure you're doing all the right things, or your physical therapist or whoever, and then you just got to get out there and start working at it.
Absolutely.
It's going to take a little bit of time, but that's cool. But the thing is, do what your doctors tell you to do.
Exactly right.
Okay. This one is from Point Shooting Guard Basketball Training. How can I get faster, more athletic, explosive, and all that jazz? I'm small, so I need it.
Okay.
You got to work on developing your athleticism.
Yep.
And if the main thing that we send people to is our vertical jump stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome.
We would also say, if you go, we keep saying it, but go to shotscience.com to the all access area. We have a training area in there as well where we talk about some of this stuff. And it comes down to footwork drills, agility drills,
explosion.
Explosions. Different ladder drills. There's a whole bunch of different stuff in there that we would say you need to work on, and it's a kind of a comprehensive approach. There's no one thing that we would say to do.
Right.
You have to do things that are specific to basketball, though. One of the things that we think is ridiculous is that people go out and they do 5-mile runs and they think that translates to basketball, but it doesn't. Sprinting and interval training really translates to basketball because that emulates kind of what you would face when you get out on the court.
Yep.
Is that fast sprint, slow down, fast sprint, slow down kind of approach. Let's see here. Some of you guys look like you're asking questions about is it okay to shoot at a 9-foot hoop? Is that better than shooting at a 10-foot? Here's the thing: is that we always say that you should be using the tools and the landscape that you will be facing when you get into a game.
Yeah.
If you're shooting on a 9-foot hoop and then you have to go play games at a 10-foot hoop, there's going to be an adjustment period.
Yeah, there is.
And it's going to be a little rough. A foot shorter rim is going to be a different look than a foot taller.
Yep.
And, one of the things that you can have a problem with is that shooting at a 9-foot rim, you might have a flatter shot and that might affect your shooting mechanics. And so that is something that you have to always be kind of aware of. We think that if you have, it's probably better than nothing, but we would say try to find something that is going to be what you're going to face
exactly
in the wild.
Yeah.
And it's just like saying, I have a mini basketball and I use that for my shooting, but then I have to go play my games and we use a regulation basketball. Yeah. It's not going to translate well.
Right.
So that's kind of our thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Jonas says, "Oh man, thanks. I have to go now, but thanks for your help."
All right.
No worries, man. Thank you. Let's see. Dan Dabrowski is replying to Ander, who says, "How can I dunk the basketball?" And then Dan says, "Ander, don't make that your number one priority. Try to improve all your skills, not just dunking."
All right.
That's right on. Thank you, Dan.
Right on.
Kevin Kolev, our buddy from Ireland, says, "Any tips on making the offense pick up their dribble and then pick the ball without fouling?"
That is really a difficult thing to do. Once they pick the ball up, they're probably then going to protect the basketball. And if they are protecting the basketball and you're trying to knock it out of their hands, you set yourself up for those fouls that are going to probably have you on the bench after a little while. Most of the steals, and Casey and I talk about this quite often too, most of the steals in basketball games come from deflections. In other words, I throw the ball to Casey, somebody else steps in, they tap it away, and they go. If somebody comes by with a dribble, I'm able to kind of tap it from the bottom, and we got it out, and we go. Not too often are you able to take and man up on a person while they're trying to protect the ball, and you're reaching and slapping and trying to get the ball out. You set yourself up for foul calls, believe me.
Yep. One of the things you can do is whenever we are talking about anything offensive or defensive, we take the position that you need to force the other person to make a decision that they weren't prepared to make.
Exactly.
So that you are making them do something they're not comfortable with. So when you're playing defense, you are, maybe giving them a little bit of a juke. You're making them pick up the ball. You're jumping in the passing lane. You're just generally making them or taking away like maybe an attack they were trying to do, but you're making them do something that they don't want to do.
Exactly.
On offense, same thing. You're giving them a jab step and making them react. If you put somebody in the position where they're reacting, they're going to be a step behind you.
Yep.
So that is really kind of the approach that you need to have. Reaching and trying to grab at things, that's a great way to get yourself a couple of whistles and then find yourself on the bench.
Very true.
Okay. Lana the Duckling is asking, good moves for short players. Doesn't matter what your height
It
is.
doesn't make any difference. Yeah.
Get out there and check out our offensive moves playlist on YouTube here, and just start working on that stuff. I mean, that's really the key. There's no reason that your height should really inform anything about your training.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay. This one is from Christian, who says, "Do double rims help you shoot better?" No. I mean, they're going to be tighter rims, and it's probably going to be harder to make the shot. But you really have to work on your mechanics. I mean, that's really the bottom line.
Yep.
Okay, so that's going to do it for us today, you guys. But we have 2 questions for you. Number 1 is our question of the week, which is, where are you guys from?
Yep.
So let us know where you guys are from in the world. And then number 2 is this. What do you think is a more important shot to develop? A mid-range or 3-point shot, or a dunk? Mm-hmm. Or what do you like more, dunks or 3s? How about that?
Yeah.
Let us know that down in the comments. And make sure you guys are following us on all things Shot Science, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, all that stuff, because that's where we talk to you guys when we're not doing these shows. Also, check out shotscience.com. We have lots of cool stuff, like our shirts, our training gear, like the jump box. Get a jump box. That, when we come back to some of the athletic training questions about that stuff, the jump box is loaded with the gear that we use for that stuff and that we train our players with. Yeah. So check that out. Get the All Access membership. Remember, if you do a promo code 1 free month, ! All caps, checkout for the All Access membership, you get a free month. So it would be awesome if you check that out. And Dan, I think our buddy Dan was asking us about the hats. The hats are a little bit harder for us to put together. Send us an email and we'll try to figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay. Thank you guys so much. If we didn't get to your questions this time, it's not because we don't like you. It's because we just ran out of time. But we will check you guys next time.
All right. See you next week.
See you later.